What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, your brain is quietly losing its ability to hold on to memories, and that most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late? I'm not talking about forgetting where you put your keys. I'm talking about that terrifying moment when you walk into a room and have absolutely no idea why you're there. Or when a name you've known for years suddenly feels like it's buried under 3 feet of sand. If that sounds familiar, I need you to stay right here, because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely change the way your brain functions. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. My name is Dr. Mason Walker, and I've spent years studying the relationship between physical movement and brain health. And today I want to walk you through something that the neuroscience community is absolutely buzzing about right now. A specific type of exercise, something you can do in just 60 seconds, that has been shown in clinical research to stimulate the exact parts of your brain responsible for memory formation, memory recall, and cognitive sharpness. And before you think this is some kind of gimmick or clickbait, I want you to know that I'm going to back every single thing I say with the science. So let's get into it. First, I want you to understand something important about how memory actually works in your brain, because most people have it completely wrong. Memory isn't stored in one place. It's not like a filing cabinet sitting in your skull where memories get dropped into folders. Memory is a dynamic, living process that depends entirely on the health and connectivity of your neurons. And at the center of that process is a small, seahorse-shaped structure deep inside your brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is essentially your brain's memory headquarters. It's responsible for converting short-term experiences into long-term memories, and it's also heavily involved in spatial navigation, which is why people with early hippocampal damage often get lost in places they've been 100 times before. Here's where it gets really important. The hippocampus is one of the only regions of the adult human brain that can actually grow new neurons, a process called neurogenesis. And what's the single most powerful trigger for hippocampal neurogenesis? Exercise, specifically aerobic exercise, but not just any aerobic exercise, and not for any arbitrary amount of time. The research is pointing to something far more specific and far more accessible than you might think. Now, let me tell you what's been happening in neuroscience labs over the last several years that has completely shifted how we think about brain health and exercise. Scientists at the University of California, Irvine, conducted a study where they had participants do 10 minutes of very light exercise, we're talking gentle yoga or Tai Chi level movement, and then immediately tested their memory performance. The results were astonishing. Participants showed significantly enhanced connectivity between the hippocampus and the cortex, the part of your brain responsible for detailed memory. Just 10 minutes. Not an hour at the gym, not a marathon. 10 minutes of gentle movement produced measurable changes in the brain that directly correlated with better memory performance. But we can go even shorter than that. And here's where the 60-second exercise comes in. Researchers studying something called exercise snacks, brief, intense bursts of movement, have found that even 60 seconds of vigorous physical activity can trigger the release of a protein called BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I want you to remember that name, BDNF, because it is arguably the most important molecule in your brain when it comes to memory and learning. Scientists sometimes call it Miracle-Gro for the brain because of how dramatically it supports the growth, maintenance, and protection of neurons. When BDNF floods your hippocampus, it essentially fertilizes your brain cells and strengthens the synaptic connections that memories are built on. And the beautiful thing is, your body can start releasing it in response to exercise almost immediately. So what exactly is this 60-second exercise? I want to be precise here, because the specific movement matters. What the research supports is a 60-second bout of high-intensity interval effort, something that genuinely elevates your heart rate quickly and engages large muscle groups. The simplest and most effective version of this is what I call the memory activation burst. And here's how it works. You stand up from wherever you are, you make sure you have a little bit of space, and then for 60 seconds, just 1 minute, you do any combination of these movements as intensely as you comfortably can. Jumping jacks, high knees, bodyweight squats, vigorous marching in place. The key is that you're moving your whole body, you're breathing harder, and your heart rate is going up. That's it. That's the exercise. 1 minute, done. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Dr. Reed, come on, 1 minute of jumping jacks. That's going to help my memory, and I completely understand that skepticism. But here's the thing. The mechanism isn't magic. It's biochemistry. When you suddenly demand a lot from your large muscle groups, your body responds by pumping more blood to your brain, increasing oxygen delivery, and triggering the release of not just BDNF, but also serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, all of which play critical roles in how well your brain encodes and retrieves information. The hippocampus is particularly sensitive to these chemical changes, and the effect can be detected in brain imaging studies within minutes of the activity ending. But I want to give you the full picture here, because there's a crucial piece of timing that most people miss, and getting this wrong means you're leaving a huge amount of benefit on the table. The research strongly suggests that the memory-boosting effects of this exercise are maximized when the movement is done immediately before a learning or recall task. So here's the practical takeaway. If you're about to study something, have an important meeting, need to remember a name, or are trying to retain information from a video like this one, do your 60-second burst right beforehand. The elevated BDNF, the increased blood flow, the flood of those feel-good neurotransmitters, all of that creates an optimal neurological environment for your hippocampus to do its job. You are literally priming your brain for memory in real time. Now I want to talk about why so many people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond are experiencing accelerated memory decline, and why this exercise is especially urgent for that group. Because it's not just aging. The modern lifestyle is waging a quiet war on your hippocampus, and most people have no idea it's happening. Chronic stress is one of the biggest culprits. When you're under sustained stress, your body continuously releases cortisol. And cortisol, in high doses over long periods of time, is literally toxic to the hippocampus. Studies have shown that people with chronically elevated cortisol levels have measurably smaller hippocampi and significantly worse memory performance. Sitting for long hours, which most of us do, reduces blood flow to the brain and suppresses BDNF production. Poor sleep prevents the brain from consolidating memories during the night, which is when most of your long-term memory formation actually happens. And a diet high in processed foods and low in antioxidants creates chronic inflammation that degrades the very neurons you need for sharp recall. The 60-second exercise I'm describing doesn't just boost BDNF, it also reduces cortisol, improves cerebral blood flow, and helps regulate the hormonal environment of your brain in ways that counteract many of these modern lifestyle factors. And that's why even if you're already dealing with noticeable memory issues, this isn't a lost cause. The hippocampus has a remarkable capacity for recovery when given the right inputs. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like in practice, because I want you to be able to implement this today. Not someday, not when you have more time, but literally today. When you wake up in the morning, before you sit down at your phone or your computer, do 60 seconds of vigorous movement. High knees, jumping jacks, body weight squats, whatever gets your heart rate up. This sets your brain's neurochemical state for the first half of your day. Then, before any important cognitive task, reading, writing, a conversation where you need to recall details, do another 60-second burst. And in the afternoon, especially if you feel that familiar brain fog creeping in around 2 or 3 o'clock, do it again. That's 3 minutes of purposeful movement distributed through your day, and the cumulative effect on your hippocampal health over weeks and months is genuinely significant. Now I also want to address something that I hear from viewers frequently, and it's this. Dr. Reed, I already exercise. I go to the gym 3 times a week. Why is my memory still not where I want it to be? And this is such an important question. The answer is that sustained, longer workouts and short exercise bursts serve different neurological functions. Your longer gym sessions are absolutely valuable. They improve cardiovascular fitness, which has long-term benefits for brain health, and they sustain elevated BDNF levels over a longer window. But the acute, immediate memory priming effect I'm describing is specific to the timing and intensity of a short burst. A 1-hour workout you do on Tuesday morning doesn't prime your memory for the meeting you have on Thursday afternoon, but a 60-second burst right before that meeting, that does. Think of it this way. Long workouts are like depositing money into your brain's savings account, building up a reserve of long-term neurological health. The 60-second bursts are like pulling cash out of your wallet. When you need it in the moment, you need both. And the beautiful thing is, the 60-second bursts require no gym, no equipment, no special clothing, and no schedule. They fit into any life, at any age, at any fitness level. I also want to talk briefly about what happens to people who adopt this consistently over time, because the long-term picture is just as exciting as the immediate benefits. Research tracking older adults who incorporated regular brief exercise bursts into their daily routine showed improvements in episodic memory. That's your memory for personal experiences and events, as well as working memory, which is your ability to hold and manipulate information in your mind in real time. These are exactly the types of memory that people tend to lose first as they age, and they're the types that most affect daily quality of life. Remembering appointments, recalling conversations, following the thread of a complex discussion, knowing where you put things. All of this is tied to hippocampal and prefrontal cortex function, and all of it can be meaningfully supported through consistent physical activation of your brain's neurotrophic systems. There's also emerging research on something called hippocampal volume, essentially how big your hippocampus is, and how exercise affects it over time. In a landmark study, older adults who engaged in regular aerobic exercise for a year showed a 2% increase in hippocampal volume. That might sound small, but in context it's extraordinary. The hippocampus typically shrinks by about 1 to 2% per year in older adults, which is directly associated with memory decline. These participants didn't just slow that decline, they reversed it. They literally grew their memory center. And that's the kind of long-term change that the 60-second habit, practiced daily, is building toward. Before I wrap this up, I want to give you one more layer to this, because if you really want to maximize the benefit of this exercise for your memory, there's a simple addition that takes it from effective to extraordinary. After your 60-second burst, spend 30 seconds doing slow, deep breathing. In through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 4, out through the mouth for 6. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps your brain shift from high alert mode into a calm, receptive state that's ideal for memory encoding. The combination of the sympathetic surge from the burst exercise, followed by the parasympathetic recovery from the breathing, creates what some researchers call a neurological sweet spot, a state of calm alertness, where your hippocampus is maximally primed and your stress response is dialed back. It takes 90 seconds total, and it works. So let me bring this all together for you. Your memory is not fixed. It is not a given that you will continue to forget more and more as you get older. The hippocampus is a living, adaptable, growable structure, and you have more influence over its health than you might have ever been told. One 60-second exercise, done with intention and done consistently, can trigger a cascade of neurological events that prime your brain for memory in the short term and protect and grow your hippocampus over the long term. BDNF goes up, blood flow increases, cortisol comes down, neurons connect, memories form more easily, recall becomes sharper, and all it costs you is 1 minute. My challenge to you right now, and I mean right now, before you scroll past this video or forget about it by tomorrow, is to stand up and do 60 seconds of movement the moment this video ends. Jumping jacks, high knees, squats, march in place, and whatever you've got. Feel what it does to your alertness, your energy, your clarity, and then commit to doing that every single morning for the next 30 days. I promise you, if you do this consistently, you will notice a difference. Your brain will thank you for it. If you found this valuable, please share it with someone whose memory you care about. Leave a comment below and tell me what movement you're going to choose for your 60-second burst. I read every single one. And if you want to go deeper on brain health, neuroplasticity, and what you can actually do every day to protect your cognitive future, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because that is exactly what this channel is built for. I'm Dr. Mason Walker. Take care of your brain. It's the only one you've got.